About 35 years ago, Honda introduced the first ever Honda Civic Si. It was a sporty, lightweight, 92 horsepower, three-door hot hatch that instantly captured the hearts of enthusiasts across the world. Now, of course, over the years, the Si became bigger, more powerful, eventually becoming turbocharged for the first time back in 2016. Now, for 2022, there's an all-new version of the Si, now based, of course, off of the 11th generation Civic. It's still turbocharged, and it still offers a 6-speed manual as standard. However, Honda claims this is the most performance-oriented Si that they've ever built because it borrows a lot of componentry from the Civic Type R. So today I'm out here in beautiful Malibu, California, and the big question I want to answer, if you guys are looking for a sport-oriented, affordable daily driver, has Honda managed to make the new Si even more appealing? Stay tuned to find out. Hey guys, I want to take a quick break to thank you all for watching this video and talk about a bunch of new merch that we just added. It's all about the thunk. If you're interested in showing your support by purchasing this shirt, as well as a few others, be sure to visit the merch shelf located just below this video. Now, speaking of support, be sure to like, subscribe, and be sure to turn on all those notification bells so you're always alerted every time we make a new upload. So because this is a Civic Si, which continues to stand for Sport Injected, I want to first talk about underneath the hood, because for those of you who had the previous generation Si, things don't really look good, at least on paper. You still have the same 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with direct injection. It now has VTEC on the intake side, so I believe the previous generation did not have VTEC, and Honda actually claims this is an exclusive engine to the Si, although it sounds like it only has 20 more horsepower than the regular turbocharged Civic, because the numbers are 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you guys are keeping score, that's actually 5 less horsepower than what you got on the 2020 Si. So it doesn't sound great on paper. Like I said, all Sis continue to be front-wheel drive with a standard mechanical limited slip differential. And of course, that 6-speed manual is your only transmission choice. Now, of course, Honda says they've retuned the engine significantly. It now has less rev hang because they've managed to make it more responsive, so it revs faster. It has a 30% lighter flywheel because they've switched from a dual mass to a single mass flywheel. And the transmission, Honda says, has 10% shorter throws. So again, this is all going to make the car feel more eager. We'll find out about that when we get the vehicle out on the road. Now, fuel economy, Honda did improve it by 1 mpg. It's now rated at 27 in the city, 37 on the highway. Premium gas, of course, is recommended. And curb weight, this vehicle still roughly weighs the same as the previous generation. This one here, as it sits, weighs around 2,900 pounds. So now that we've talked about the engine, let's talk about the styling of the new 2022 Civic Si, because just like the all-new 11th generation Civic, we have a design that is a lot more mature this year. In fact, Honda says they used the 1986 Civic Si as the design inspiration, and Honda has always had kind of a conservative look, and maybe they just wanted to tame down the craziness of the 10th generation Si. Now, of course, how could you not notice the exterior color of this car? It's called Blazing Orange Metallic. It's their signature launch color, and it certainly looks good out here in the scenery here in Malibu, California. The front fascia, again, is very handsome, but also very restrained. You're going to notice a couple of changes, of course, on the Si. The grille has that honeycomb mesh insert, which we first saw on the Civic hatchback. There's a very subtle Si badge over here to the right side of the grille, and then you also have your own unique front fascia here with the front splitter. The headlights, you can see Honda now includes full LED headlights as standard. They include an LED turn signal, LED low and high beams, automatic high beams. However, this right here looks like a fog light, but it actually is not. It's just black plastic. I suspect that must be the sensor for the Honda sensing system. The headlights themselves have like a blacked out look to them, which again gives the Si a little bit more of a dark, sinister design. The regular Civics have a more chrome, brighter look to the headlights. I really appreciate the restrained but also darkened look of the new Si. Now, of course, moving around the side profile, you're going to notice how low and wide this vehicle is. In fact, Honda increased the overall length and the wheelbase by about 1 inch overall from the previous generation. At 184 inches long and 107.4 inch long wheelbase, this has the longest wheelbase in the class, Honda says, so it's bigger than something like the Volkswagen Jetta GLI. It's also a little bit lower, and Honda also updated the suspension on this vehicle that takes some componentry from the Civic Type R. So they say that torsional rigidity is up by about 10% versus the previous generation. That's going to give us a stiffer structure here, so the car is going to feel like it's more keen to handling these dynamic roads, which we'll be driving later on. Now, the wheels, of course, these are the 18-inch wheels that you kind of see on other Civics like the Civic Sport. However, Honda gives the wheel finish a matte black look as opposed to the Berlina black that you find on the Civic Sport. The brakes are also slightly upgraded. I believe they're maybe 1 inch larger. However, the calipers, I really wish Honda had painted them or given us like a 4-piston design to the caliper. They're obviously going to save that for the Type R, but I think the SI's brakes kind of look a little bit weak. I'll talk about the performance of them later in the drive. Overall, I think the shape and the silhouette of this vehicle certainly looks good, especially in this blazing orange. You can see all SIs have the black finished mirror caps, and then all of the chrome trim is also blacked out, which also gives it a nicer look. Sunroof is also standard. That's something that you couldn't get on the Civic Type R. So that's something that the SI gives you, which is a nice addition. And then over here, you can see the rear of the vehicle has kind of a resemblance to a Volkswagen Jetta. In fact, the overall look is very restrained. The old generation had a nice wing spoiler on the back. Now they've replaced it with just a flush spoiler that is painted black. You have these very large taillights, which are LED brake lights. All of the turn signal is incandescent. There's a very subtle SI badge there to the side. And then over here on the rear bumper, it's practically the same as the regular Civic. However, you're noticing one thing. It has a true dual exhaust setup. And Honda says the exhaust reduces the back pressure by about 30% versus the Civic EX. They say it sounds a lot better, so let's fire it up so you guys can hear how it sounds. So Honda says they really fixed the exhaust noise on the new SI because of that true dual exhaust system. However, I want to hear what it sounds like from the outside.
Not to abandon.
Oh, look, my orange Uber has arrived.
5 stars, please. Oh, hold on. Unlocked.
Yeah, I was like, that bitch better not leave me. I don't have my phone. So I have to admit, it sounds a lot better than the previous generation, and the exhaust system looks a lot better versus the old one, which kind of looked like an HDMI port. A lot of people did not like the design of that. Now let's talk about the trunk capacity of the new SI. You get roughly 14.4 cubic feet of space. It's basically the same as the regular sedan. The seats, they fold down in a 60-40 manner. You have hinges that crush your cargo. And then if you look underneath the floor here, my tester does not have a spare tire. In fact, I don't believe Honda Civic SIs come with spare tires. So instead you have an air compressor kit and a fix-a-flat kit. So now that we've talked about the exterior of the new 2022 SI, let's go ahead and hop into the interior, because this is where Honda really made a lot of improvements compared to the previous generation. As I get in and shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk, which adds to an impression of quality. And you can see all SIs come standard with Honda's smart key access system. You can see it's got a new key fob. It's kind of got more of a rounded off shape as opposed to the squared off shape. No remote start, obviously, because this is a manual transmission only, but the seats are also an upgrade that you're going to notice. These are the SI specific seats with more aggressively bolstered with the red contrasting stitching, the red inserts. They are only cloth, however, and Honda has taken away the heated seats that you got in the previous generation. So I'm not entirely sure why they did that, but you can see the driver's seat has a manual 6-way adjustment. I can kind of get relatively comfortable, and I do think the seats are really well shaped for my specific frame. So again, try the seats out, make sure you like them before you buy this car. But manual transmission, it's got a new shifter. Engine start button here is right where you'd expect it to be. And then when the vehicle starts up, you can see there's a lot of red accents in this vehicle because that's going with the red theme that Honda does with the SI. You can see there's red stitching on the steering wheel. There's red accented gauges. There's a big red accent here along the dashboard vent with this honeycomb shaped pattern, which we first saw on the regular sedan and the hatch. And the SI's interior has that same premium sophisticated vibe with a sportier edge. So this definitely has one of the nicest cabins in the industry. And it also has one of the well-designed layouts for the interior. I really like the way the dash is set up. It's got a soft touch injection molded plastic here. Honda decided to give us the 9-inch touchscreen over here. It's their newest infotainment system. It doesn't include Android, or it doesn't include wireless over-the-air updates, but it does include wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice. You can see the screen itself is high-quality resolution. My phone connected to it pretty quickly, and you also have a traditional volume knob over here with a tuning button and a traditional home button over here, which will take you back to the Honda system. I'll come back to that in a second. I just want to show you guys the door panels. They did skimp out. These are hard touch plastic. In the Civic Touring that I last tested, this was a soft touch injection molded plastic. The window controls, they are a newer design. They feel pretty high quality. Only the front windows are one touch up and down. The rears are just power, but they're not one touch. The steering wheel, you can see it's a new steering wheel specific to the SI. It's got a nice fat bolstering. It also has a really great amount of range for the tilt and telescoping function. The horn sounds pretty puny, but apparently I was told that it sounds a little bit better than the previous generation. And you can see the gauges. This has the non-fully digital gauge display, and the Tourings you get an all-digital display, which is like 10 inches. This has kind of the half-sized display. So you can see on the left side, the TAC, you can kind of change this up and put navigation information. You can put your throttle and brake info, your G meter, your stopwatch, safety systems. You can also customize the display. You can go to range and fuel. So that looks pretty nice, although I kind of wish Honda would have done the full digital dash. I suspect they may save that for the Type R, but it is a much better looking display. And I also like all of the buttons on the steering wheel. Honda Sensing basically comes standard. So even though we have a manual, we also have things like adaptive cruise control. It's got automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, all of that stuff. So it has most of the tech features you basically want in today's age. Now, of course, the manual, you can see, has a new shifter, which Honda says the throws are about 10% shorter. You can see I really love the way the shifter feels through the gates. It's really slick. Reverse is kind of accessed by going all the way over to the right, then coming down. You can see do that. There's a backup camera that gives you 3 different views. It also has rear cross traffic alert. The resolution isn't wonderful. I've definitely seen better camera resolution in some of the Hyundai and Kia products, so I kind of wish Honda had upgraded that. You can see there's the current infotainment system that you find in the Accord. It works just fine. They definitely have made it faster over the years, and you can also kind of customize the widgets if you like. And then if there's also factory embedded GPS on the Touring grade. However, this one, I believe, does not actually have factory GPS. The SI didn't offer that in the previous generation. This one also doesn't. Instead, just go to the Apple CarPlay and you can use the GPS here from Waze or Google Earth or something like that. So that's probably what most people are going to do. Regardless, I like how Honda gave us the upgraded system, and they also gave us the 12-speaker Bose stereo. It does sound pretty good, much better, of course, versus the 7-speaker premium audio that Honda used to offer for years. So I'm glad to see Honda threw in the better sounding stereo. Maybe it was a consolation prize because we lost the heated seats. Now, speaking of which, these climate control vents feel very high quality. Have a nice satisfying click when you use them. It is just a single zone automatic climate control. I was surprised it's not a dual zone, but it is. It does look really nice. I like the backlit buttons. I like the piano black plastic trim. Your drive mode selector is over here. You can see cycle between that there are 3 modes. There's normal and sport, and then there's a new individual stage. If I go to customize here with the individual, I can change, custom tailor the engine and the steering response. And Honda also says it adjusts the suspension tuning as well. So the sport mode in this vehicle is definitely a lot more sporty versus the previous generation and the regular Civic. So we'll try all that, of course, as you go into the drive scene. There is an electronic parking brake with an electronic brake hold feature. There's this interesting texturized plastic trim here that tries to make it look like a metal weave, something like that. And then you can see big cup holders over here. There's a nice padded area here for the center console. And then if you open this up, there is no USB in there. It's a relatively deep storage well. Instead, your 2 USB-A ports are right here. No wireless phone charging pad, however. I was expecting to find that here. I suspect Honda, again, might be saving it for the higher grade Touring models. Above me, you can see there is some LED lighting, so it's nice to see that. There's like a new map display over here, map lighting. And then you can see here standard sunroof, which is great. I wonder if the Type R is going to offer a sunroof, so it's nice that the SI gives it to you. And then over here, you can see the glove compartment. It is a relatively big size. The console lid is damped, but it's not lined with felt. So overall, I really like what Honda's done with the cabin. Sad that they took away the heated seats, but it does have most of the tech features that you're going to want, and it really makes the Civic's SI's interior feel a lot more premium. Now, moving to the back seat of the new SI, just like the sedan, this does offer one of the largest spaces in the segment. Honda says you get around 37.5 inches of legroom back here. This is about an inch more than the previous generation. You can see the floor here is not completely flat, which I'm surprised because it's a front drive car. There's also no rear seat air vents back here, no heated rear seats, no power ports, but you do get one storage pocket over here. The materials are hard touch plastic, just like the front seats. And you can see you have the same texturized material here for the window controls. And then thankfully, if you fold this down, there is an armrest that gives you 2 cup holders. So in terms of features, it is lacking back here. There is still LED lighting. However, I would have nice to see Honda put rear seat air vents, or at least had the option of heated rear seats or USB ports. All right, so now on to my favorite portion of the new 2022 Civic Si, and that's driving the car, because as you guys know, the Si has always been one of the more sought after sport compact vehicles, and we've been waiting for Honda, of course, to show us the new Si ever since they showed us the redesigned Civic. The regular Civic is perfectly fine, but as an enthusiast, until the Type R comes out, which will be sometime next year, I've been really excited to drive this new SI. Now, of course, I'm going to switch the drive mode into sport. Honda says its sport mode in this vehicle is far more aggressive versus what you get in the regular Civic. And like so many other SIs before it, it's still only front-wheel drive. It still comes with a limited slip differential, a mechanical one, and it comes standard with a 6-speed manual. Now, of course, on paper, the specs didn't look all that impressive. 200 horsepower now, 5 less than the old one. It's got roughly double the power of the 1986 Civic SI, but it also has double the weight. So in the last 35 years, I wanted Honda to make a little more progress in the horsepower numbers, but numbers don't always tell everything. Sometimes it's all about the feel, and that's what Honda says the SI is all about. Now, of course, they've set up this amazing road for us to drive on that is very technical and very curvy. The one that I'm driving has the summer performance tires. These are Goodyear Eagle summer performance tires, and I'm gonna try my best here not to get my friend Rob here sick next to me. He also has a small cup of coffee, and hopefully he doesn't spill it over himself, but...
Make good decisions with my beverages.
But right off the bat, I'm noticing right away, the new SI feels a lot more sharp than the old one. And with that new exhaust system, the synthesized engine noise, it does sound noticeably much better versus the previous generation. Honda gave this car a lot of parts from the Type R. There was a little bit of understeer there, but the steering in this vehicle is so incredibly sharp now, and there's the dump truck. It's so incredibly sharp that it really shocks me how much this car feels more like a Type R versus the previous generation. The old one, every time I drove it, it just made me think, okay, you should have spent more money and got the Type R. This one, at least at first glance, I'm noticing feels a lot more sharp. Honda claims it's the most high performance SI they've ever built, and they may be onto something there.
Only half his brake lights are working.
Or maybe
he's turning left, though, I bet, because maybe he's turning right. What the hell is he doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. Oh
good.
God, I don't know what he's doing.
Maybe he's going to this house over here.
Just
Okay.
go.
So now that we've lost the dump truck, we can finally start seeing what the handling characteristics are all about. Now, I mentioned earlier, Honda gave this car a lot of suspension components from the Type R. And we also have a new updated 6-speed manual with 10% shorter throws. We have a 30% lighter single mass flywheel for the clutch. And Honda says there's a lot less rev hang versus the previous generation, and I'm definitely noticing that. This engine feels a lot more willing to rev. It still has a relatively low 6,500 RPM Redline, but the responsiveness of it is just more immediate, and that's kind of what I was looking for with a performance sport compact like this. The old one was just so disappointing when you started to really drive it aggressively, and this one definitely feels a lot more energetic. It just feels so much sharper. The steering feels good. The suspension stays nice and flat too. I'm actually surprised because this car has a suspension system that is slightly adaptive. And if you do go near the Redline, it will cut the power pretty abrasively. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Let's see if you can.
There we go.
Remember how to launch
a manual. I hope so. One bar. Okay.
You need more than 1 bar?
Yeah, there we go.
2 bars. There we go.
All right, I pulled out my 0 to 60 timer because I found a stretch of road that's nice and straight, or relatively straight. And this car, remember, has that limited slip diff. I'm going to turn off the stability control. Let's see what I can get 0 to 60 in this thing.
Good luck.
This is my first time launching it. Not bad. I actually have to go to third to go to 60. That's going to lower the 0 to 60 time. And it did. We got 8.03 seconds, which the fact that you do have to go to third is going to slow this car down. Remember, SIs aren't about 0 to 60 performance. I'll retest this car when I have it back home for a week. Now, this really brief short drive makes it difficult to do testing like this with this car. And also, that's not the point of an SI. Numbers aren't always, the best thing about driving this thing. That's the thing about the SIs. You want to get behind the wheel and find your favorite curvy road, because this vehicle feels incredibly capable. Now, of course, with only 200 horsepower, it doesn't feel as fast as some of the other competitors. Although I just got out of the Volkswagen Jetta GLI, the refreshed one, and I have to say, I like the way this car drives more than the Jetta. The steering is a lot sharper. The shifter is typical Honda. It's really buttery. It's really direct. It really has a nice snickety-snick feel through the gates. The clutch is a lot lighter this year. It took me a little bit to get used to. It's also a little bit vague. I didn't stall the car, but you can stall it relatively easily if you're not paying attention to where it actually engages. It engages right at the end of the travel. But the one thing I do love is Honda added the active rev matching this year from the Type R. And it's all because of that shifter and the lighter flywheel for the clutch discs, the single mass one. And it really improves the driving feel of this car. I mean, I'm not the best at heel and towing, and I know some enthusiasts out there are probably gonna say, I don't need the computer to do it for me. I'd rather do it, but I have to say, this does a really good job, and it sounds good. This engine sounds nice, actually, with the synthesized noise through the speakers and through the higher flow dual exhaust system. It's a nice driving vehicle. I am actually genuinely impressed. The numbers are disappointing for this car on paper, but once you're actually behind the wheel, like so many SIs before it, unlike the previous generation, this actually does impress you. And if you guys live in a warm area like this, like Southern California where I'm at, spec the summer tire option because it really improves the grip of this car. I don't feel any torque steer. I barely feel any wheel hop also. The limited slip diff just does its job of putting the power down. It just could use more power. You really notice the lack of horsepower at the top end. But again, that's kind of what the Type R is for. You're gonna want that vehicle if you want the maximum performance. But now this car no longer feels like a huge like slap in the face. Like the old SI, like I said, it felt like you should have bought the Type R. And this one now feels like it's nudging itself a lot closer to the Type R, and I think that's going to really appeal to a lot of the Honda faithful. So Rob, being the Honda loyalist that he is saying that the 8-second 0 to 60 time is simply unacceptable. So we've switched places, and he's going to see if he can get a better 0 to 60 time versus myself.
What is that number right there?
Yes, you got a second better than me. Congratulations.
I must have lost a lot of weight in the last 3 hours. Oh man, okay, that makes me feel better.
So after spending the day driving alongside the Pacific Coast Highway with beautiful beaches like this in the background in the brand new 2022 Honda Civic Si, I must grudgingly admit, I was prepared to not like this vehicle because on paper, it seems like a big disappointment. I mean, the car has a much more conservative look. Honda actually downgraded the horsepower versus the previous generation, which is kind of like a slap in the face to enthusiasts. However, what Honda has done here is created an SI that finally feels like it's more than just numbers, because the previous generation kind of felt like a guzzied up version of a regular Civic Sport. Now, because Honda has applied a lot of the Civic Type R parts and the tuning into the new SI, we finally have an SI that feels like a Type R Lite. And that's essentially what enthusiasts wanted. I mean, yes, Honda did not give us a detuned version of the Type R's motor, and I was really hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, that they would give us like 230 horsepower to match the power output of the Volkswagen Jetta GLI. So even though this is one of the slower accelerating vehicles, it is one of the best handling. It has the best transmission, the best shifter, a really easy clutch. It's got a really nice interior. And the beauty about it is Honda has wrapped it in a wrapper that looks really attractive. I mean, in this blazing orange, it is a little bit of a conservative design, but it is also a handsome design. And it has one of the best interiors in the segment. So I think a lot of people are going to really appreciate the entire package here with the new SI. Now, of course, if you're looking to buy the new Civic Si, this car starts at $27,300. They are heading to dealers right now as we speak. $27,300 doesn't include the $1,000 destination. My tester here with the high performance summer tires is another $200 extra. All in, my tester is about $28,500 with destination. That represents about a $2,000 increase versus the previous generation. However, with all the additional tech features on the inside, with the additional standard equipment, with the much improved handling and response of the engine, I think this is definitely still a bargain. And it also makes the new Si a couple $1,000s less expensive than the 2022 Volkswagen Jetta GLI. Now, keep in mind the GLI does have some features like heated and cooled seats that the Si does not offer. However, if you're looking for one of the most well-rounded packages in the segment with the best shifter, the 2022 Si is one of the top picks in this segment. With all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2022 Honda Civic Si. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook. And as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.